Welcome back to the Downtown Den. I'm delighted to be joined by Bill Addy, the Chief Executive of the Liverpool BID Company. And we're going to be talking about the accommodation bid. And Bill, listen, the accommodation bid, a very innovative move by the city and by the Business Improvement District Company. So tell me how that's going and how we're progressing it with this alteration ballot that's about to happen.
Yeah, so the accommodation bid has been an integral part of Liverpool BID Company's operation in Liverpool since it came into being at the beginning of January in 2023. It won a vote in November of 22, a clear mandate from the hoteliers in the city that they want to take action so that they can ensure that demand for hotel rooms is driven. And to do that, we need resources, and that's why the accommodation bid came into being. And since that, we have provided significant subvention funding that has funded conferences coming to the city that enables our hotels to bid for that accommodation and enables our hotels to be full at times when they wouldn't be full. So economic impact of that has been from the £1 million, 1.1 million that's been invested, about £47 million of economic impact from those conferences. But we need to do more.
So huge return on investment in terms of the initiative. But as you say, I think what we've learned over the last 12 months or so from the visitor economy industry sector is they are wanting additional activity, additional resource. And so we're looking at this alteration bid. Tell us a bit more about that.
So the Business Improvement District regulations fix at the beginning of a bid term when you go to ballot, they fix a business plan and they fix the rules for that business plan for the next 5 years. So we're at the moment we are fixed in that the levy calculation for our hotels, and it's a technical point, but Business Improvement District levy is calculated based on a percentage of rateable value. So our hotels at this moment are scheduled to pay 5.5% of their rateable value into a levy, and that levy bills would go out in June of this year. To change any of those rules, you can't just change it as the bid company. We couldn't just make those alterations depending on what our board says. You are mandated by regulation. You have to go to ballot again. So you have to consult all the members and all those levy payers, as opposed to members, apologies, all those levy payers get the opportunity to vote. So we're looking to do that in an alteration ballot. That alteration ballot is going out to those levy payers from March the 13th. And the reason we're doing that is because our hoteliers, the board that operate the accommodation bid in Liverpool, know that we need to raise significant funding if we're going to remain competitive. There are a lot of event spaces coming onto the market around the UK. Lots of conference centres where again, there's competition for those major international conferences. So to do that, we need to raise more revenue, and we are looking at an alteration ballot to change that to become an accommodation bid charge. So that alteration ballot is on one thing, and one thing only, about do you, as a hotelier who are part of the accommodation bid, are you accepting of the fact that the model will change from levy based on your rateable value to levy based on a charge on all of the rooms in your hotels?
And how much more money will that generate?
So the budgets we have in the first year would be 4.2 million, as opposed to just over 1 million under the current in place conditions. And then in the second year, in year 5, which is the final year of the current term, £4.9 million.
So a significant uplift.
Yes.
And as you say, Bill, you know, the competition is getting fiercer right across the UK. And we're very fortunate in Liverpool in that we've got the accommodation bid in place, because a lot of the cities that we operate in now as Downtown do come to us and say, how do we get one of those? Now, they operate something in Manchester, of course, which is similar to the model we're going towards.
Yeah, that's
there's many other cities that they'd love this sort of ability to raise money to support their visitor economy.
Yeah, it's a very live discussion at this moment in the UK, isn't it, about visitor levies and visitor charges and tourism tax. We've seen Wales and the Welsh government are imposing a tourist tax. So if you want to camp in North Wales, or you want to camp anywhere, you're going to be charged 75p per person in a tent. Yeah. In Scotland, the Scottish devolved governments have allowed the local authorities now, so it's on the statute books in Scotland that the local authorities can impose a levy. And already we've seen Edinburgh will impose a 5% levy on turnover for all of the accommodation businesses. But here in England, there isn't that move at this moment in time. England would require central government to change the powers for fiscal devolution, the powers for raising a tourism tax. I'm not too sure that our Chancellor now wants to go back with a new tax. Yeah. So business improvement district legislation is the only legislation that we can use that can drive that ability to raise local levies that will be used locally.
I think from my perspective, I'd always argue against those particular powers being devolved, because the beauty with the accommodation bid, and indeed the big company in its wider sense, is that it's private sector led, right? So the levy payers are actually on a board and decide how the money is invested. And I think it's crucially important that happens. My fear, not simply saying this about Liverpool, but all local authorities, local governments across the country, under huge financial pressures. And once you start paying a levy or an additional tax into the coffers of local authorities, difficult to know how that's being spent. We're very open, transparent as to how that money is being invested. And as I say, the people who are paying the money have the power to say, these are the things we want you to support.
Exactly right, Frank. That's the key difference to how we operate the accommodation bid and how Business Improvement District works, to how we're seeing in England that various and quite a number of local authorities are looking at tourism levies and using Business Improvement District legislation to try and impose a tourism levy on their local areas. And it doesn't work. No. It's not for the public sector to do this. This is the private sector having control of the levy. And that's the most important point about how business improvement districts work. It is the private sector who lead on it, because the private sector know what they require locally. They know what support from our accommodation bid board. They know where they need to drive demand, and they know which of those levers that they can use to continue to drive demand for the city. And that's the key. And the money that's coming in via levy into our accommodation bid is not just going to be for subvention. It's also for destination marketing. It's also for support for the visitor economy in terms of the skills base. We need to improve skills of our young people. We know with what the changes are around visas and overseas staff working in UK visitor economy, and it's becoming harder for us to use that. So we need to be able to support our homegrown people coming into the industry, so that the business economy district through that levy will do all of that. Destination marketing, visitor economy support, but also a key chunk of business subvention, sporting subvention and culture subvention.
And just a couple of things to sort of demonstrate the importance of that money that's raised and how it's invested. Eurovision Song Contest springs to mind. The BID were huge supporters of that. In fact, it's fair to say without the BID support, we wouldn't have got the Eurovision Song Contest to Liverpool. Then you look at some of the great work that you did over the Christmas period in dressing the city centre, made it a fabulous experience and increased footfall across Christmas and then into January and February as well. And then, of course, the thing that people perhaps won't understand and appreciate is that these big conferences, Labour Party conference being one of the major ones now, they require investment to come. You know, that literally they're the government now, they can go anywhere. They're coming back to Liverpool this year, and that, again, is in no small part due to the support that the accommodation bid give to that conference.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the Business Improvement District has been in existence in the city now for over 20 years, about 21 years now, and we are able to deliver those areas you talked about. So Christmas animation in the city centre, Christmas lights across the city centre. But the support for Eurovision, it's got, I mean, Claire McColgan is on record as saying that if it hadn't been for the Business Improvement District, actually at the time that they were bidding for Eurovision, for the Business Improvement District, committing private sector funding to that bid, then it wouldn't have happened in the way it did, and that's very clear. But there are other areas of work a Business Improvement District does in Liverpool, such as our innovative Business Crime Reduction Partnership. So we work very closely with Merseyside Police. In fact, we fund 2 police officers. And some evidence of that work has been seen only in recent weeks in terms of the connectivity between the bars in the nighttime economy, between Merseyside Police and between the City Watch. So we fund a City Watch officer. That we had an issue last week in one of the bars in the centre where one of the bar staff noticed that somebody had a drink spiked, was able to check that it was spiked, able to recognise the person who had done it, and through the work that we do through funding City Watch, our City Watch operator was able to follow the person who had done that, communicate with Merseyside Police, and the person was arrested. And that's continuous presence. And Business Improvement District's work is to connect all those sectors together, connect all those areas of the city together. And that's the reason why we are as successful as we are. We know we're 21 years, as I said just before. That means we've been through 5 renewal ballots. We go to the market and they vote for us. And if we didn't deliver year on year for them, they wouldn't vote for us. Sure. We are a democratically elected organisation that is voted in by the businesses, but we are responsive to the businesses.
And it's good that we've got that powerful private sector presence, because I think even from the public sector perspective, it's good to know that you've got that sounding board. And again, that collaboration, and I think it's a growing collaboration now between the public and private sector, the BID are an integral part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And an example of that is we were one of the pioneer partners for the new Liverpool City Region Capital and Real Estate Investment Partnership. I got it right then. But we're part of that. And, we've been advocating for a number of years that really to promote Liverpool and the city region on a world stage, we need the CA, the city, and business together. And we are seeing that happening now. It's tremendous that this year, for the first time, we've got that real voice. We'll be going out to MIPIM in a few weeks to be able to promote the city and the city region on that world stage. But it's also about looking about how we deliver that for the whole of the year. But that's one of the key things about the partnership. And this is a partnership because cities only work when you work in partnership.
Yeah, for sure. And you see that success in other places, don't you? I think we are improving as far as Liverpool is concerned. One final thing before I let you go. I can't not mention why you and I both sound a little hoarse on this podcast today. It's the week of the Merseyside derby, that tumultuous game that took place on Wednesday evening, the final derby game at Goodison Park. The result aside, which you and I both obviously pleased about, because when you equalise with the last kick of a game, it does feel like a win. But on a serious note, the whole week has been dominated by that story of Goodison Park, the last Merseyside derby there, as I say, and then the new stadium at Bramley Moor Dock, which I know we're very much looking forward to getting into in August as a football club. But the importance of that scheme, that project to the city, it can't be overstated, can it, Bill?
No, exactly right, yeah. I get emotional about, as you well know, particularly at the 98th minute of any game. Anyway, we won't go into that, and my voice is a bit croaky about that. But that aside, it actually shows how important football is to our city. And I know that from the visitor economy I know that from the international brand of Liverpool. And, I was just talking earlier this morning to a number of people in the city about how important this year is for brand Liverpool. I am a Blue, and everybody knows that. And I've always said, when people ask me which teams I support, and it's always Everton and whoever is playing Liverpool. But in all seriousness, this year, I want Liverpool to win the Premier League. I do, and I'd like Liverpool to be in the Champions League final, because I think it's vitally important that the world sees football and the way that we promote it in Liverpool is vitally important. But from going back to that thing about Everton, I think we're seeing a resurgence in Everton's fortunes. The new stadium on Bramley Moor Dock, regardless of which team you support, or if you're not a football supporter, to see that amount of investment with that quality and attention to detail, it will transform North Liverpool. And North Liverpool needs transformation. When we know that in our city's health stats, you look at all of those, it can't be right that you will live longer if you live in the south of Liverpool than you do in live north. The average life expectancy is significantly lowered in North Liverpool. job prospects, employment prospects, academic prospects, housing prospects are all lower in North Liverpool. It can't be right. And the work that both football clubs, but particularly Everton with what they're doing around the new stadium is fabulous. And when it's open, when we see that waterfront across a world stage for 19 home games a season plus any cup matches, our waterfront will be shown right around the world, and we know that Premier League is a massive product. We know that from the amount of investment that's coming into it. So that's tremendous. But also what's going to happen around the Goodison Park legacy, the fact that the Trinity are staying there, the fact that Dixie Dean is going to be staying in that location, the fact that Everton in the community have their campus there, that there will always be a Goodison Park that people can play on, so the centre circle is going to be kept. But that will act as a catalyst, together with the work that the City Region Mayor is doing between Liverpool and Sefton in terms of that North Liverpool new town. All of that is actually kick-started and will be transformed by those football clubs. And if you remember back, the whole reason that we have Premier League football in this city is because of the fact that they wanted to find some way that the young people in the Victorian times in 1878 could be kept fit and healthy. It was that whole bit around Christian athleticism, that the view to health was around sporting activities, and that's really, it's great to see that happened in North Liverpool. What we need to see is to make sure that the wealth that's come from that stays in North Liverpool. And isn't it brilliant as an Everton supporter, or indeed a football supporter, to know that the club that you support will have built 3 stadiums in the city, will have been the first team to ever win a trophy at Anfield, and will be the first team to win the league championship in 3 different stadiums in the one city.
Nice for you to end on an optimistic note, Bill, and I'm sure all the Liverpool supporters watching that would be delighted. At least you did say you wanted them to win the Premier League.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. But it's been great to see Bill Addy, Chief Executive of the Liverpool BID Company. Thanks for coming into the Downtown Zam as ever, Bill, and we'll catch up again soon.
Great, look forward to it.
Cheers, thanks mate.